The first person to receive the United States of Africa passport is a resilient Haitian woman named Aldy Josephine, who traveled all the way to Burkina Faso under difficult conditions to claim her rightful identity. When Aldy, a 34-year-old school teacher from Capuchin, walked into the Ouagadougou Passport Center last morning, she carried only one small bag, a worn photo of her grandmother and a handwritten family tree tracing her lineage back to Ivory Coast. President Ibrahim Traoré met her personally. He gently placed the passport in her hands. Then, in front of gathered journalists, he praised her courage. Aldy's journey reminds us of centuries of strength. Despite Haiti's unrest and her own hardships, she pressed on. That determination is what this United Africa movement is built on. Aldy spoke softly, tears in her eyes. She explained that she had endured political instability, economic collapse, and shortages at home. Still, she saved enough over months to buy a ticket to Ouagadougou because she believes this passport means more than travel. It means healing. It means reclaiming identity. When I hold this passport, she told Traore, I feel my grandmother's spirit. I feel that I belong. The crowd applauded, some wiping their own tears. Aldy's image, a proud black woman receiving the first ever Pan-African passport, instantly went viral on social media. Across Africa and the diaspora, people shared their own tears and celebrations. But President Traoré also issued a cautionary update during the ceremony. This is only announcement part 1, he said solemnly. We are humbled by the overwhelming demand. The online portal is flooded. Applications now exceed 4 million. While we process Aldy's passport today, we must temporarily suspend new in-person issuance. We will redirect applicants to complete documentation and verification first. He promised that the system will be streamlined and fast-tracked as soon as possible. But until further notice, no one else should cross borders to Ouagadougou solely to apply. Instead, he directed all applicants to await updates via the official Burkina Faso government website and embassy channels. Aldy's story became a guiding light. She spent the day talking to fellow applicants, listening to their stories of separation, exile, aspiration. She told reporters, people in Jamaica, in Miami, in New York, they are my sisters and brothers. We are one blood. This passport gives us a chance to reunite. Meanwhile, local staff worked around the clock. Print machines worked. Verifiers stamped files. Biometric systems recorded fingerprints and iris scans. But every moment brought new waves of applications. Lawyers, diaspora groups, NOS, ancestry researchers all flooded in. Traoré finished the event with the message of collective patience and unity. Aldy is the first of many, but if we rush recklessly, this moment will be lost. We must make it right, not just fast. We must honor every story, every lineage. We are building a united future. Behind the scenes, technical teams prepared to scale servers, hire extra vets, and open satellite intake centers in Africa and the diaspora. Aldy's passport was not only historic, it was a turning point. Official plans are now underway for announcing a temporary pause on new passport travel until further notice, while letting the backlog of digital submissions move forward. This is no longer simply a Pan-African dream. It is now an urgent mission of identity, justice, and restoration. Starting with Aldy, but destined to include millions. As the sun set over Ouagadougou, the photograph of Aldy Josephine, holding her deep green United States of Africa passport continued to spread like wildfire across the world. Within just hours of her emotional ceremony with President Ibrahim Traoré, news outlets in Africa, the Caribbean, and the Americas were reporting on the moment as a symbol of historical justice. In Port-au-Prince, people gathered in local cafes to watch the footage. In Harlem, New York, black families spoke proudly about a sister finally going home. Across WhatsApp groups, African Americans and Caribbeans began asking, how do I apply? What documents do I need? When can I go? But the demand became a tidal wave. The Central Passport Center in Ouagadougou, originally designed to handle 1,000 applications per day, received over 50,000 seconds inquiries within 24 hours. Officials working inside the building reported sleeping on chairs and floors, staying through the night to keep up with the system. A representative from the Ministry of African Unity and Diaspora Affairs told the press, "We expected high interest, but not at this speed. We are now working 247 to upgrade our systems. We will honor each request, but we ask our brothers and sisters to please wait for official scheduling." To manage the situation, President Traore held a national briefing streamed live. He confirmed that the temporary suspension on new in-person applications would remain in place until new passport production centers could be launched in several African countries and trusted diaspora locations like New York, Kingston, Port-au-Prince, and London. He also used the moment to speak from the heart. "To our African American brothers and sisters, to our Caribbean family from Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad, St. Lucia, Grenada, Guyana, Antigua, Dominica, St. Vincent, and all across the islands. We welcome you home," he said. "Africa must not only open its arms, it must apologize. We know the pain of slavery cannot be erased with a passport, but it is a beginning. It is a handshake with history." In Haiti, the streets of Cafichin erupted in song. Aldy's former school held a special assembly with students clapping and singing African unity chants. Her neighbors painted murals of her passport photo on walls. The Prime Minister of Haiti even released a statement congratulating her and praising Burkina Faso's leadership. Yet, President Traore's team also stressed, verification is essential. Applicants must show birth certificates or ancestral documentation, DNA proof if needed, clean legal records, a signed declaration supporting African unity and Pan-African values. Those found with criminal intent or suspected of undermining the movement will be denied access to the system. "This is not just a travel document," Traore reminded people. "This is a symbol of loyalty, heritage, and Pan-African duty." Inside the passport office, Aldy herself remained humble. She said she did not expect this level of attention, but when she looked at her passport, she saw the faces of her grandparents. She saw generations of struggle finally met with recognition. "I didn't come for fame," she said. "I came because I know where I belong, and I know my story is the story of millions more." That evening, thousands of emails poured in from Trinidad and Tobago, from Suriname, from the Bahamas, from Black communities in Brazil, Canada, and the UK. And even though travel is temporarily paused for new applicants, a surge of online pre-registration has begun. President Traore's office confirms over 2.4 million people have started their eligibility process since Aldy received her passport. This is not a normal immigration story. This is the rebirth of a continent reuniting with its scattered children. And the world is watching. The next morning, the line outside the main passport office in Ouagadougou stretched for nearly 2 kilometers, even though new in-person applications were officially paused. Hopeful applicants still came just to stand where Aldy St. Louis had stood, to take selfies near the building, to touch the gate where history had just opened its arms. Some carried tiny flags of their countries, Haiti, Jamaica, the US, Barbados, and Ghana. Many brought printed documents, family Bibles, and photo albums filled with black and white portraits of ancestors, hoping they would be enough to prove their African lineage. When applications reopened, Aldy's story had awakened something powerful. Back home in Haiti, her childhood community began organizing what they called passport circles. Groups of people pooling resources to help each other apply when the system reopened. One young man in Port Deep was seen using chalk on a brick wall, drawing the African continent and writing, "No say petty laugh. We are children of Africa." Meanwhile, President Ibrahim Traoré met with a special committee formed to expand the processing system and establish diaspora passport offices in key cities across the Caribbean and the Americas. In a public radio message, he shared the urgency of the moment. "We cannot allow our children to wait another H100 red years. We must build fast but strong. This passport is not just paper, it's a bridge across centuries of pain." He revealed the creation of what he called the Diaspora Verification Protocol, DVP, a standard that all applicants must pass to receive the United States of Africa passport. The process would include verified documents showing African ancestry via parents, grandparents, or family tree records, DNA test options for those without documentation, a background check for alignment with the values of Pan-Africanism, a sworn oath to respect and uplift African nations and their unity. No one will be allowed to use this passport to divide, exploit, or insult the continent, Traore warned. In the US, African American leaders expressed admiration. Several black mayors, pastors, and community organizers in Atlanta, Detroit, and New Orleans sent letters to the Burkina Faso embassy requesting partnership in the application rollout. Popular influencers across TikTok and YouTube began posting videos titled, "What the African Passport Means to Me, I'm Going Home." Thanks to Ibrahim Traoré, Africa is ours too. Some even traveled to Ouagadougou to document the movement firsthand. But amid the excitement, the government made one thing clear: no one should travel to Burkina Faso without official instruction. The system is overwhelmed, and unregistered visitors would not be processed on arrival. Traore repeated this message in a nationwide broadcast. "We love you, we welcome you, but we must be orderly. Let us prepare your arrival with dignity and structure." To assist, Burkina Faso's government launched a new secure online pre-registration platform. There, applicants from all over the world could upload documents, take eligibility quizzes, and enter waiting lists for full appointments. Meanwhile, the African Union began hosting emergency meetings to coordinate passport integration across member states. So far, 31 African countries have agreed to accept the new United States of Africa passport as a valid travel document, with more expected to join. This has already led to policy discussions about visa-free movement, shared economic zones, and a continental welfare program for returning diaspora citizens. But it all goes back to that one photo of Aldy standing tall beside Ibrahim Traoré, her hand raised high with a green passport shining in the sun. "She came with hope," Traore said. "And now millions more are ready to follow." And across the Caribbean, from St. Kitts to St. Vincent, from Grenada to Dominica, from Antigua to Trinidad, the whispers have turned into songs. Africa is calling, and its children are finally answering. In Haiti, the streets of Kafishan were alive with celebration. Children wore headbands made of kente cloth. A mural of Aldy St. Louis was painted near the town square, showing her holding the green United States of Africa passport with the words "Premier Petite Lafri, first daughter of Africa." The emotional impact of her journey had lit a fire far beyond what even President Ibrahim Traoré had imagined. Across the Caribbean, the story dominated the airwaves. In Kingston, Jamaica, a special TV feature titled "Africa Welcomes Her Own" aired in primetime. In Barbados, the parliament debated how to support its citizens in the application process. In Trinidad, steel pan musicians composed a song called "Green Book Home" in Aldy's honor. But the sudden explosion of interest was not without its consequences. The central passport system in Ouagadougou became flooded with over 3 million online pre-applications in just 48 hours. Government servers slowed. Staff worked overtime. Some reports even mentioned applicants showing up at Burkina Faso embassies in Paris, New York, and Havana without appointments, hoping to be fast-tracked. President Traoré immediately called for calm and patience. "This is a sacred task," he said in a press release. "Africa has waited for 100 years to reconnect. We must do it the right way." To address the chaos, Traoré's administration issued a temporary suspension of in-person applications, effective immediately, while online applications would continue through a lottery-based appointment system to ensure fairness. In a televised address, Traoré praised Aldy once again. She walked with purpose, carrying the pain of her ancestors, but also the promise of tomorrow. "We honor her by honoring the process." He also introduced new guidelines: DNA priority lanes for applicants with no written proof, but verifiable West African genetic markers, ancestry fast-track for individuals with documented family lineage to African slaves or settlers. Diaspora partner offices, DOS, to be opened in key cities like Port-au-Prince, Kingston, New York, Bridgetown, and Atlanta. Meanwhile, Aldy herself became a media phenomenon. She appeared on Burkina Faso's national television and later gave her first international interview to an African journalist from Nigeria. Sitting under a baobab tree in Ouagadougou, she said, "I came here not only for myself. I came for my grandmother whose bones never found peace. I came for the sons and daughters of Haiti who still dream of a homeland. This passport to us is more than a document. It is a return." Her words brought tears to many. In the background of the interview, local women were seen bringing her food, hugs, and handmade gifts. Back in Port-au-Prince, churches dedicated services to Aldy's story. A local school changed its name to Iol Marafri. Even Haitian rappers and poets began including lines like Yo Racim Men, "They stole my roots, but Africa is calling me." In Ghana, Liberia, and Nigeria, African elders expressed deep emotion, watching the reawakening of ancestral ties. One Ghanaian tribal chief remarked, "We buried too many names. Now, they rise again," holding a green book of unity. But not everyone was happy. Some Western governments issued travel advisories and cautioned citizens about unverified immigration schemes. A British newspaper dismissed the program as Pan-African nostalgia. President Traore fired back. "What they call nostalgia, we call justice. What they mock as fantasy, we live as freedom." And while global powers watched with caution, Africa was watching with pride. The United States of Africa passport was no longer a quiet idea. It had become a global movement. Aldy had become a symbol. The green passport was now the new black star, and the world was watching. Aldy's TT. Louis' journey has now become a movement. What began as a single act of courage, flying alone from Haiti to Burkina Faso to reclaim her African identity, has rippled across the world like a tidal wave. From Harlem to Havana, from Bridgetown to Bamako, millions of people of African descent are now standing up saying, "I want to come home." The African Union, although slow to react at first, has now officially acknowledged the United States of Africa passport as a legitimate initiative for Pan-African identity and unity. Over 42 African countries have agreed to recognize the passport for free movement within the continent, and those still hesitating are now facing massive pressure from their own youth. In Nigeria, young activists marched through the streets of Abuja with signs that read, "If Haiti can return, so can we." In Senegal, elders held prayer ceremonies for the return of our children from the sea. Meanwhile, the Caribbean nations have begun organizing. Barbados, Dominica, St. Lucia, Antigua, and Barbuda, and St. Kitts and Nevis have all established provisional task forces to assist their citizens in applying for the African passport. These island governments, once under heavy influence from colonial powers, are now discussing dual citizenship arrangements with Burkina Faso, but the demand is beyond anything anyone expected. The Burkina Faso Ministry of Integration and Diaspora Affairs confirmed that more than 8 million applications have been started from over 38 countries, the largest migration-related event in African history since independence. The sheer scale has overwhelmed infrastructure, even though President Traore has rapidly hired 5,000 new passport officers and opened 30 new processing centers across West Africa. To manage this, Traore's team has announced a verification and routes protocol with these new rules. Applicants without birth certificates will be asked to submit family interviews, oral history videos, or DNA ancestry tests from verified labs. No applicants involved in anti-African disinformation campaigns or groups opposing black unification will be accepted. Those with African heritage through one parent or grandparent will be automatically eligible for a fast-track review. Temporary passport suspensions remain in place for walk-ins. All must wait for an official email appointment. Still, the wait has not dampened spirits. In fact, it has ignited even more global pride. In the United States, churches, mosques, and Pan-African community centers have held town halls to educate people on how to apply. In Atlanta, a barber shop has renamed itself Waga Cuts. In Chicago, murals now feature President Ibrahim Traoré with the slogan, "He opened the door, we are walking through." And Aldy, now dubbed Mama Afri by her supporters, is being honored across the continent. She was invited to Mali by traditional leaders and given a royal necklace symbolizing rebirth. She visited Senegal, where a statue was unveiled in her name. And in Ghana, she placed flowers at Cape Coast Castle, where thousands of slaves were once held before being shipped to the Americas. There she broke down in tears and said, "They took us in chains, but I came back walking, and I will not be the last." President Traore, watching the footage, was visibly emotional in his latest speech from Ouagadougou. He said, "Aldy reminded us that the past is not finished. It still walks in our veins. But now, we write a new chapter. Not as victims, but as visionaries. This passport is not just ink and paper. It is blood and memory. It is hope." He added that once the passport program stabilizes, his next push will be a continental currency, a unified welfare system, and full voting rights for African diaspora members in African parliaments. As he said, the return is not just symbolic. It must also be political and economic. Though the lines are long, the servers are slow, and the journey ahead is complex, one thing is now certain. Africa is no longer waiting. Africa is calling, and for millions like Aldy, the answer is yes. I am coming home. The sun rises over Ouagadougou and outside the National Passport Center. The line stretches for blocks. People of all ages, skin tones, and accents are waiting not for a visa to leave, but for a passport to return. Some wear t-shirts with United States of Africa printed boldly across their chests. Others carry handwritten signs. "We are home. Africa welcomes us. One people, one passport." At the front of the line is a man from Baltimore clutching a folder filled with documents tracing his ancestry back to a slave plantation in Georgia. Next to him, a woman from Trinidad shares photos of her great-grandfather, an African drummaker. Further back, a Jamaican Rastafarian prays softly, his hand resting on the green-gold-red flag of Ethiopia. Inside the building, President Ibrahim Traoré holds a quiet meeting with his ministers. The topic? Scaling up the passport mission. So far, more than 3 million applications have been received. Over 900,000 seconds have been approved and processed. Thousands more are pending security, vetting, ancestry confirmation, and language interviews. The process is slow but deliberate. Traoré is clear in his orders. This is not a tourism program. This is about permanent return. We are not building a bridge for selfies. We are building a highway for the future. To ease the burden, the government has announced 5 new regional offices in Ghana, Rwanda, South Africa, Senegal, and Tanzania to assist the central office in Burkina Faso. Mobile passport clinics will also tour the Caribbean and the US, starting in Port-au-Prince and Miami, to speed up application intake. But beyond the logistics, something even more powerful is unfolding. This is no longer just a policy, it is a spiritual revolution. In an emotional live address streamed globally, Traoré says, "To every African American, every Haitian, every Jamaican, every soul descended from our continent, we see you, we hear you, and we welcome you. Africa is not whole without you." He continues, "We carry a wound that was never stitched. Our ancestors were sold, stolen, scattered, and still they sang. Still, they fought, and now, they are coming home through you. This passport is not a gift. It is a right. It is your inheritance." The camera pans to Aldy Josephine, the Haitian woman, who became the first ever recipient of the United States of Africa passport. She stands on a balcony in Ouagadougou beside Traoré, waving as the crowd chants her name. "Aldy, Aldy, Mama Afrique." Her eyes fill with tears. Later that day, Aldy visits a school in the capital where children rush to greet her, calling her Tanti Afrique. One little girl asks, "Are you really from so far away?" Aldy kneels and says, "Yes, but my heart was always here. That evening, in an emotional interview on national television, Aldy reflects, "They call me the first to return, but I am not the first. I am the first in a new way. I came by plane, but millions came in dreams, in prayers, in poems. Africa is calling all of us home, and this time, we will not be pushed away." Meanwhile, the Western media continues to react, some with fascination, others with skepticism. One headline from a European newspaper reads, "Burkina Faso sparks passport panic in the West." Another American outlet asks, "Can Africa really absorb millions from the diaspora?" But Traore has already answered that. Africa is not absorbing them. Africa is welcoming them back. And this continent, blessed with gold, oil, youth, land, and culture, can support not just its children, but its children's children for generations to come. At the closing of his address, he reveals his broader vision. One continental currency backed by African resources. One economic zone free of colonial restrictions. One Pan-African welfare system to end poverty. One digital identification system to connect every African globally. He ends with words now going viral across the diaspora. "This passport is not a document. It is a door. Open it." And so, under the setting West African sun, with drums echoing through the city and hope rising across the oceans, a new era begins, not of migration, but of return. Africa is no longer just a place on the map.